1320 WILS. Every Tuesday, we touch base with Dr. John Braccio and talk about things, psychological matters, things of importance to you and to your family. And in light of the events last night, I thought we'd get Doc on and talk a little bit about the psychology behind all of this. Dr. Braccio, welcome once again to your morning wake-up. And sorry, we're going to change the pace today, but, we never know where the day is going to go, do we?
Well, we really don't, and this is really a tragedy. It's hard to believe that there's such evil in a person's heart, but obviously there are persons that do this, and the impact on thousands, even millions of people, but certainly those of us involved in the mid-Michigan area, it's just hard to believe what people are thinking. I was part of this, listening and following all this yesterday as it was coming down. Just hard to believe that this could have occurred, and particularly in the university I love and care for, and certainly spend a lot of time at. But it's part of life, so I think what has to happen is people have to really learn from this, move on, if you will, and have to look after themselves, because there's going to be a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder, people reliving, rethinking, re-experiencing this thing, because, there are persons that were pretty terrified on campus. There were people really that were in their rooms, that were calling their parents. They didn't know what was going on. They may have been outside. And then there were those of us following it, and those that know persons on campus and have connections there. But it's one of those things that even around the country, around the world, call it what you will, people really tune into this, and they really sort it out. And the main thing is you really want to try to learn from it yourself. You want to really attend to yourself. You really do. You have to look after yourself in attention at situations like this. You have to realize there is good in the world. You can't let an evil person, an evil act, really destroy your view of life and the world that you're going to really live. And you need to not just focus on this all the time. You need to focus. You need to talk to people about it if it's really on your mind. But you just can't focus on it day and night. It's the kind of thing that will really overwhelm you. So it's a time to find who you are, find if you have spiritual depth, what you have, or how, whatever it might be. It's a time of thought. It's a time of thinking. It can be used in that sense in a positive way for people that really may just have not really put enough thinking into life, the gravity of life, the issues that can occur in life, and what we can do to be helpful, what we can do to help ourselves, what we can do to help others. And somewhere along the way, if we run into somebody who has a darkness in their heart, an evil, call it what you will, maybe we can just help a person, whatever what was going on in this person's mind. We really don't know right now. We just know it was evil to go and shoot people and do things of this type. But always we can try to be helpful. When you help a person that has this bent for wrong, for evil, for anger, for violence, call it what you will, whatever we can do just in daily living, whether it doesn't have to be professional, it can be anyone that can be helpful, we can be sure that we're doing our duty, because we don't know how many people have been turned away from violence just because someone cared, someone talked to them, someone tried to sort out what was going on. But this is a difficult period for us, so we just have to move on, and if we need to seek out support, seek out help. But main thing, just mindfully recognizing that this has occurred and putting it in some perspective in our life, that becomes really critical to find meaning from horrible situations.
Dr. John Braccio, our guest every Tuesday about this time, and people who perpetrate these types of incidents, there was that thing in New York, the guy in the truck just ran over a bunch of pedestrians and stuff. And it never, I would say never, maybe rarely, but never, is just a guy or a person who decides, you know what, I'm going to go shoot up the place. I'm going to go run over some people. There's always something that is that straw that breaks the camel's back, but there are signs that lead up to it. Has there been extensive, over the years, as these shootings, as these killings, as these, these drive through the parade kind of people, as they rear their ugly head. Has there been any extensive psychological look into this, or is each one extremely different, that different? Is there a commonality at all?
Well, I think we do find a commonality with many of these persons. They're often loners. They often even now, have been involved in anger groups. They've been involved with bad experiences. They may come from difficult home backgrounds, but it's kind of this isolation for many of these persons. They kind of live in their own little world, and they come out. And they come out with anger. They come out with making a statement. They come out with manifestos. They come out with just a lot of anger, a lot of frustration inside them, that doesn't have to be it's legitimate to them. So they're out doing things like this. But there is a loneliness, a kind of a part to a person that many people don't see. Afterwards, people might say, well, I knew that person, was strange or different or stuck. That doesn't always occur. A lot of times the view of the person can be they're even quite normal, whatever word you want to use, whatever that exactly means, but they fall within a range of common behaviors, but they have this within them. And this is the kind of thing I think that we're always trying to find. One of the difficulties in this type of work, in terms of police work or psychological work, is until a person really does something, it's really hard to know what they might do unless they're definitely on the media. They're definitely saying what they're going to do, and somebody's aware of it and tips someone off along the way. But a lot of times, you really don't know what a person's really going to do. A lot of people say things. A lot of people are maybe seen as dangerous, but there's really nothing you can really do. But there's a darkness. There is a belief structure, like someone would, like if we'll see a manifesto, if we see what a person has written, or there's some hate, there's some anger against someone, and this is the type thing that if we can find it, if we can identify it, then I think we can try to help the person. We can, and when I say, I think people afterwards, after these things occur, will often say they knew there was something. They didn't know what it was, but that's the type of person. If you run into someone like this, and assuming they're not violent, that time of dangerous, but if you're just talking, just being helpful, giving advice can be helpful. But I also think when you see something and you see a pattern like this pattern of evil, this potential within a person to do wrong, things on the internet that people put out, because a lot of times people actually have a trail of this anger, this hatred, call it what you will, that if we can find it, if we can identify it beforehand, we can hopefully stop things like this that just terrorize a community and become national news and then slowly slip into history, but not the 50,000 students at MSU or those of us that are following all this, because we will remember this type of thing. So there is, in a long answer, yes, there's an attempt to identify. There's certain things to identify. The problem is really having the ability and to just go and say you're a dangerous person, and we're going to have to do something, because it's sometimes not quite that easy until you look at the threads and you go back. So it's a tough from a civil rights point of view to make sure we're not just picking people up and finding, like we think you might do something. But it is really critical that we find better methods and we are able to identify these people before they go off, because it is happening more and more frequently, and not just with in this case, a guy with a gun. You say the person over there in New York with a car, and we had this in Kenosha, Wisconsin, if you remember, another person in a car driving through people. So it's definitely, we have to take a look at ourselves from a societal point of view too, and figure, what is going on right now. We definitely need to make changes, but we definitely have to look after ourselves, Mike. At one other point, our own mental health. Don't overemphasize on this. Get some balance in our own life and just try to find some meaning. Why did this happen? And what can we learn from it? And how can we help others in the future and ourselves if things like this or when things like this occur?
Well, reach out, ladies and gentlemen, to family members and those who are affected directly. And these kids who had to shelter in place, they're going to have some toughness to go through as well. That's going to be tough. All right, Dr. John Braccio, our segment with him every Tuesday. Doc, we appreciate it and your insights this morning. We'll talk next week on hopefully on a happier day.
We will for sure, my friend, but this is when everybody comes together. Nice talking to you, my friend. I'm sure you will do things too. Bye-bye.
All right. God bless. 1320 WILS. We'll take this break and come back. 1320 WILS.